Hello, this is Mr. Millay, and here is your video review for United States college history. Quiz going to be on Thursday. So, first thing, we're going to go over the urbanization notes. You need to know why people moved into the big cities now, why they were doing this instead of living in their small communities like they used to, why people wanted to to live in urban areas as opposed to rural areas. All right. We're going to talk also, you need to know about the first chain stores, mail order catalogs, and how that changed shopping in the United States. That's important. Okay. Places like Sears and Marshalls and stuff like that. You need to know about tenements, what they were, and you know why people lived in them, what a dumbbell tenement was, what it would be like to live in one. You know, we talked about this as a dumbbell tenement, you know, because it was shaped like a dumbbell, and what it would be like to live in a tenement. Remember we watched that video about that. It was very crowded, it was slimy, it was disgusting, you know. They just dumped their stuff into the water. The tenements were dirty, filthy, bad places to have to live. All right. Some things about the diseases that a person might catch: typhoid, yellow fever, things like that. Definitely need to know about the difference between new and old immigration. Okay, new and old immigration, and the main differences being that these, you know, old immigrants were people who came in from, you know, before the 1860s and 70s, you know, and they were much more easy to become Americanized. They spoke English. Most of them had the same language as WASPs. Remember, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. So you need to be able to know the difference between old and new immigration, definitely. And know why the new immigrants, people were afraid of them. You know, they were not, like I said, they weren't Protestant. They didn't come from democratic countries. Most of them came over here because they were poor and they had no choice, as opposed to just coming over here because they wanted to. And so a lot of people were upset that they tried to build, you know, Jewish schools, Catholic schools, and a lot of people were anti-Catholic, did not trust Catholics in any way, shape, or form. And because they just, you know, that was not part of their system. All right. Talk about some of what we call the new morality, the Comstock Law, which outlawed any kind of sexual discussion or any kind of discussion about things that were considered immoral, as a reaction to Victoria Woodhull, because she was a woman that talked about women's issues like birth control and things like that, and that she was looked down upon. We also talked about prohibition, why women didn't like prohibition, or we talked about that because back in the day, if your husband came home drunk and beat you up, you really didn't have any legal recourse. A lot of people thought that alcohol led to violence against women, which almost certainly did. And so, yeah, the Women's Christian Temperance Union, know about that and why they were in there, know who Carrie Nation was and why she was famous. You know, that hatchet there she used to smash up liquor bottles and yell at people who drank illegally, because, you know, Kansas had prohibition way before the nation did and kept it way after the nation did. All right. Other big thing about this unit, we talked yesterday a lot about suffrage, women's suffrage, which is the right to vote. The National American Women's League, headed by, or National American Women's Suffrage Association, headed by Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Student B. Anthony, which were very much against any kind of they were against anybody getting the right to vote until women had gotten the right to vote, you know, and wouldn't even allow blacks or men to be involved in their running. All right. Today we're going to talk about some of the things like basketball and baseball that became big spectator sports during this time. We're going to get into that a lot. Why baseball was so big and why boxing was so big, because it was cheap entertainment that anybody could be involved in. we're gonna, sorry, there we go, I found my place. We're gonna talk, you need to make sure you study about Darwinism. The Origin of the Species was a book by Charles Darwin. He really made a lot of people very upset. Education made big leaps forward during this time period. National laws that required you to go at least through 8th grade, and then more money towards schools. The Chautauqua movement, which was to educate adults to learn how to read, so that they can learn how to read. The Morrill Act and the Hatch Act, which helped to fund higher learning. All right. We're going to talk today about the newspaper, the press, Joseph Pulitzer, and yellow journalism. Yellow journalism is journalism that is intended to sell newspapers rather than to educate. And we're going to talk about Pulitzer and Hearst and how they basically created, bad press. We're going to talk about the fact that a lot of people start to have a lot more leisure time, all right, and how that helps the nation. Spectator sports like baseball, things that people could do as a group together and enjoy became big. And then, of course, music and theater, vaudeville acts, days where people could take off and relax. And this was the first time that people started to expect that in their lives, days where they were told to chill out and relax. We're going to talk also about social Darwinism. We're going to talk about that today and tomorrow. We're going to talk about trusts and monopolies. Trust is when companies join together with their competitors. Monopoly is where you own all of a certain type of business. We're going to learn about the Sherman Antitrust Act, which made trust illegal, but it wasn't really enforced for a long time. We're going to talk about the organization of unions and why they started to be created and what people did and didn't like about them and why some people did and didn't like them. The railroad strikes, first railroad strikes, we're going to talk about those. And then a big one we're going to talk about is Haymarket Square riot, which was a riot where they were basically having a protest to protest against police brutality, and somebody threw a bomb into the crowd. It killed a bunch of people. 11 were dead and more than 100 people were injured very seriously, which led to a lot of xenophobia, which is a fear of foreigners. And 8 people were arrested that day. 5 of them were hanged, 1 killed himself, and the governor said, yeah, we don't really have any reason to believe these guys did anything bad. So, you need to know about what it means to be blacklisted, what it means that if you're blacklisted, that means nobody will hire you. And if you study all those things, you should be fine for your quiz on Thursday.